What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the No Fun League. It's Mock Draft Thursday. Today, I want to game out a scenario where quarterback does not go number one overall. I think it's a very real possibility. The Titans hired their GM, Mike Bergonzi, yesterday, and he had his press conference. They're talking, and him and the team president made multiple references to the fact that they want to get one of the generational talents that are available in this draft class. And they're not too pressed on the quarterback position. Now, I think that there's a very, very, very real chance that they're just lying. They're trying to inflate the price of the pick. They're trying to scare a team to want to trade up for a guy like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But at the same time, I think once again, about 3 months out, it is definitely worth looking at the chances that they do not go quarterback number one. So in today's mock draft, I have them going Abdul Carter. Now, I know Travis Hunter won the Heisman. I know Travis Hunter is one of the most hyped college football players of all time, maybe at this point. However, I think Abdul Carter, pound for pound, is the best player in this draft class. And while I think both of them are going to be very good franchise changing players, I think Abdul Carter gets the edge when you're just looking at what he can do to transform a defense. At number two for Cleveland, I still think they go quarterback given Deshaun Watson tearing his Achilles again, Jameis Winston kind of being the only hope right now on the roster, and you can get a stopgap again. Like you can get a guy like Joe Flacco again. You could get Jameis Winston. Like I said, you can re-sign him. You can go get Justin Fields or Daniel Jones. But I think the best bet is just go get a quarterback. Cam Ward showed a lot of cool things on film at Miami. I know people are like, ooh, this quarterback class is bad. It is in the grand scheme of things. If you compare it to last year, where legitimately every single first round pick at quarterback has a future in the NFL and showed that this season, whether it's Caleb, Drake May, Bo Nix, all of them, Jaden Daniels, obviously, even Michael Penix, all of them showed a future. Now, JJ McCarthy hasn't played yet. The jury's still out, but literally all of them showed a future. So, yes, it's going to be worse, but Cam Ward is not a bad football player. Cam Ward on a team where the defense is stacked, where you have very good players on the offensive line, you got good running backs, you have pretty good receivers, and you have a great offensive coach in Kevin Stefanski. Cam Ward can cook. And I think, the Browns get a lot of hate, as they should, for letting go of Baker Mayfield, given how he's playing now. And I think Kevin Stefanski is part of that problem because Baker Mayfield was hurt and they were still throwing the ball 50 times a game when they had Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, even though Baker Mayfield literally had a separated throwing shoulder. So he gets a lot of blame for that. However, Kevin Stefanski is the one that turned around Baker Mayfield first, and then he went to other places and improved even more. So I think Stefanski finally gets his quarterback, a young guy, not Deshaun Watson. And I think Cleveland can be very, very good and contend with the rest of the division because they've shown that with just basic competent quarterback play, that roster can win 9 to 10 games easily. At three for the Giants, I have them taking Travis Hunter. An ESPN article came out today saying that they really like Shedeur, but it also said they're going to explore every opportunity. They have been linked to Sam Darnold multiple times. They were very interested in Sam Darnold last season as well. I think everything is a lot different for the New York Giants if they signed Sam Darnold last year. Now, if they sign Sam this year, obviously it'll be a little bit more expensive, but like a 2 year, 50 million deal for Sam Darnold with 30 guaranteed, I would not be mad. I would not be mad at that at all. But I think they're not going to reach for a quarterback. And I think they draft Cam Ward if he's available at three. They've been linked to Shedeur Sanders a lot. Shedeur Sanders even wore cleats with the Giants logo on them for crying out loud. However, I am not buying that per se. If the Giants drafted Shedeur Sanders, I would not be mad. I am a Giants fan, as y'all know. I would not be mad. I think that any quarterback that Brian Dable and Joe Shane deem worthy of drafting, I think they're going to be right, and I think they're going to be good. Because yes, the free agent signings at quarterback, especially last season, going into it with Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito, not smart, pretty bad. Probably the worst thing that Shane has done as GM, and Dable part of that, because obviously. However, they are part of the brain trust that drafted Josh Allen over people like Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson, and the rest of that 2018 draft class. So I trust them. If they go Shedeur Sanders, great. But I think Travis Hunter just makes so much sense for this team. A, marketable. You're in New York. He, like I said, one of the most hyped football players ever coming out of college. B, just a generational football player. This is a guy that legitimately played at a top 10 level in college at wide receiver and corner, won the Heisman Trophy as a non quarterback. We haven't seen that happen in a couple years. So, very excited to see where he ends up. And I still think there's a chance that the Giants grab him at 3. At 4, the Patriots kind of get fucked in this situation. Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, both off the board. They're not obviously not going quarterback. I think Tetaroa McMillan is a very appealing possibility. However, remember last year with Jim Harbaugh and San Diego in LA with the Chargers. Sorry about that. In LA with the Chargers. A lot of people were like, ooh, they have to get a receiver. They need one. Keenan Allen is gone. Mike Williams is gone. They need a receiver. What did he do? He went and drafted Joe Alt. He went and drafted a guy that fits his image for what a football team should be. And I think Mike Rabel is going to do the same thing. I think Mike Rabel is going to get a defensive lineman. It is from Michigan. I don't know how Rabel will feel about that. He is an Ohio State guy. But you go get a defensive lineman who put up insane numbers in college. You pair him with Keon White and the other young pieces you have on that defense. You need some pass rush help. You lost Josh Uche. You don't have what's his face, Matthew Judon anymore. You need it. And I think he fits in perfectly, especially because Christian Barmore, great player. However, he did miss most of the season with health issues, and I think they need that presence on the interior defensive line. I have them going Mason Graham. At 5 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think we go back-to-back Michigan guys. They get Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. Another really great player. I think he would have had a lot more hype if he was able to come out last season because of how well he played during that playoff run for Michigan, but still a phenomenal player that fits in with Jacksonville. And now that Trent Baalke's gone, now that you're going to look for a new coach again, especially if you get a guy like Rob Saleh. We saw what he did with DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner in New York, how that defense was. I think it could be a really good building block because you have a very good pass rush in Jacksonville. You just need some help on the back end. At 6 for the Raiders, they go Tetaroa McMillan. Shedeur Sanders, very appealing possibility here. It fits in with Vegas. It fits in with needing a quarterback. It fits in with whatever coach they get. Brady's there. Brady and Shedeur have a relationship. However, I think the need for just once again, a possible generational talent at receiver outweighs what Shedeur Sanders could possibly do. I think Shedeur Sanders will be good in the NFL, but I think Tetaroa McMillan will be much better and much more important. And I would not go past the Raiders getting a quarterback in free agency. At 7 with the New York Jets, I have them going Will Campbell, tackle from LSU. Right, last season, Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith were your 2 starting tackles. They are both over 35. They are not long-term solutions. They go Will Campbell. At 8 for the Panthers, I have them going Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia. They have Jordan Fuller and I believe JT Woods at safety. And that's not going to cut it. Or maybe Xavier Woods. That's not going to cut it. And I think with the improvement that the offense showed, with the improvement that Bryce Young showed, you still have a very good defensive coordinator. You need to get good young blue chip prospects on that defense. And I think Malachi Starks provides that. Would not be surprised if they go with one of the Georgia edge rushers either. At 9, I think this is going to be the most controversial pick in this draft, in this mock draft. I have the Saints going Shedeur Sanders. I think Derek Carr gets traded or cut this offseason. I think the Saints, with whatever direction they have to go, I think if Mickey Loomis wants to keep his job, they got to embrace the rebuild. And I have insisted upon it because we've seen them try time and time again to push the salary cap down the line, push all the money down the line with guys like Kamara and Cam Jordan. They went and got Derek Carr a few years ago to be like, okay, we have a good roster, we can contend, and they haven't been able to do it. So I think you start fresh with a good quarterback. You have Kamara still. You got Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, some other good pieces. The defense still has good players. I think Shedeur Sanders gives you a better chance to win than Derek Carr does right now if you're in New Orleans. At 10 for the Bears, I have our first trade of this mock draft. I have them trading back with the Arizona Cardinals. Once again, you just force trade in these situations because I'm not going to haggle with a computer. I think the Cardinals trade up. I think the Cardinals trade up for an offensive lineman. They go get Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas, one of the best offensive linemen in the country this year. And they jumped the 49ers to do so. They jumped their division rival to do so. I think they drafted Paris Johnson a few years ago. Kyler Murray has shown that he can play at a very, very high level. The defense is slowly starting to come together. You're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. more involved next season. You have some other really good pieces at receiver, in my opinion. Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. I think they're both really good pieces. And now you're getting them protection that they need. At 11 for the Niners, even though they get jumped for Kevin Banks, I still think they go offensive tackle with Josh Connerly from Oregon, another really great player. And this is a team that desperately needs any offensive line help they can get. Outside of Trent Williams, they do not have a lineman that I would put in the top 10 or top 15 at their position. They are extremely bad at offensive line outside of Trent Williams, who's 40 and missed most of last season. And I think Josh Connerly Jr. starts the path to rebuilding that offensive line in front of Brock Purdy. At 12 for the Cowboys, I hate to do this because I want to be able to root for this player, and I won't if he's wearing a Cowboys jersey. But the Cowboys draft Ashton Giante. He's literally said that he grew up near there. He wants to go play there. He'd be very happy if he has a star on his helmet, unfortunately. And it fits a very big team need. Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. You got CeeDee Lamb. You do need a secondary receiver. So Luther Burden was a very real possibility here. So is Matthew Golden from Texas. However, Ashton Giante is just too good. He's a star. And I think that Jerry Jones will be very tempted to take him and will if he's available. At 13 for the Dolphins, yes, Tyreek Hill's agent said that he's going to stay and all of that. You need receiver help anyways. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are basically the same receiver. And I've said this in every single mock draft, but I think that severely limits what you can do as an offense. And I think a guy like Luther Burden really comes in and gives them something different. And he's a great player. Last season was phenomenal for Luther Burden. This year, not so much, not as much hype. Did not play as well. Missouri didn't play as well as people thought they would. They kind of let people down. But great season from Luther Burden. At 14 for the Indianapolis Colts, I have them taken, and I do not know why PFF does not have this man ranked in the top 32. I have them taking Jalen Walker. It says linebacker, really good edge guy, kind of a do-it-all player. I think this is a guy that can drop back in coverage if you need him to on some plays. This is a guy that can go rush the passer. You just hired Lou Anarumo as defensive coordinator, which I think was a great hire. And I think Jalen Walker gives you a very versatile chess piece to use on that defense if you're Lou Anarumo. At 15 for the Falcons, I have them taking another Georgia player, Michael Williams. In my opinion, another really great edge rusher. I know James Pierce Jr. is falling. There are off the field concerns for him. There are other things going on there. However, Michael Williams gives the Falcons an edge presence that they have not had for a very long time and something that defense is severely missing. Now, with the trade down, with the Cardinals, the Bears pick Josh Simmons, in my opinion. I think this is a guy that could have gotten one or what could have been the first offensive tackle off the board had he not gotten hurt this season. Really good, can be versatile. You can play him at guard or tackle. The Bears could use help at either. And you got to protect the line in front of Caleb Williams. And I think that's going to be priority number one for Ben Johnson. At 17 with the Bengals, I have them taking Matthew Golden, the receiver from Texas. We saw how well he played in their playoff run this year. We saw how elusive he can be. We saw just the catchability, contested catchability is insane. You pair him with Joe Burrow, you don't know if you'll be able to keep T. Higgins or not. If you lose T. Higgins, Matthew Golden would be a great young replacement on a rookie contract. And I don't think the Bengals are going to be picking in the top 20 anytime soon. But when a good team gets to pick in the top 20, they got to make the most of it. And I think Matthew Golden does that. At 18 with Seattle, I have another trade. This is our last trade of this mock draft. I know I went a little crazy with them last time. Will not be doing that again today. Once again, got to force it. I think the Eagles trade up and draft James Pierce Jr. I know he's not a Georgia player. He's from Tennessee. I don't know how Howie will feel about that. But I think this team does end up moving on from Josh Sweat this season. He's a free agent. I don't think they pay him again. I think James Pierce Jr. provides maybe even a chance to be better than what Josh Sweat is right now. You pair him with Nolan Smith. You got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter in the middle. So you have four first-round picks at defensive line that were all drafted within the last 4 years that all put up great numbers. And James Pierce Jr. is the kind of guy that the Eagles kind of draft, like a Jalen Carter type, not as bad of an off-field situation, but there have been attitude concerns and things of that nature, according to Matt Miller, NFL draft scout. great resource for all of this, by the way. But I think it fits into what the Eagles have culture wise that can protect him. You got Big Dom. So I them going James Pierce Jr., which once again sucks as a Giants fan to have them have a great offensive line, but this seems like a very Eagles move. At 19 for the Bucks, I have them taking also an edge rusher, Nick Skirden from Texas A&M. I think that this team has been looking for edge help. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka didn't really pan out. They try again in the first round. I think Nick Skirden can be a really great player. You got Vita Vea, you got Kalijah Kancey, Yaya Diaby is a very encouraging young player. And I think you keep that defensive line rebuild going with Nick Skirden. At 20 for the Broncos, this is probably my pick that I've also mocked all 3 times, is the Broncos getting a tight end. It was Colston Loveland the first time, I believe, and then Tyler Warren the last 2 times. I think they're going to go tight end. Once again, Jimmy Graham thrived in his career with Sean Payton in New Orleans. And I think Tyler Warren can be even better than Jimmy Graham in the NFL, quite honestly. I know Jimmy Graham is great, but it just gives them a dimension on that offense that they do not have yet. And I think he'll become Bo Nix's best friend. At 21 for the Steelers, I have them taking Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas. He did struggle against Ohio State. Very real about that. However, you got Joey Porter Jr. on one side. You tried getting Dante Jackson in the trade with the Panthers last offseason. He was okay. He was pretty up and down, but you got to get a young option that you have long term. And I think Jahdae Barron gives you that. At 22 for the Chargers, I thought about Kenneth Grant, but I'm going Colston Loveland. Once again, I think this is a team that pays a wide receiver or trades for one in the offseason, whether it's T. Higgins. There were some DK Metcalf rumors going around the other day, but I think once again, Colston Loveland gives you a great tight end. Justin Herbert hasn't really had a really good tight end to play with. Jared Cook was there in his old age. You had Will Dissly there, but Colston Loveland, great run blocker, Michigan man. Harbaugh's going to love that. And I think he's just a phenomenal fit on this offense. At 23 for Green Bay, I have them picking Trey Amos, the corner from Mississippi. Eric Stokes is going to be a free agent this year. He's okay. I don't know if they pay him or not. The more concerning thing in the cornerback room is Jaire Alexander, massive contract, didn't really play a lot this season because of injury, missed their playoff game against the Eagles. Maybe they move on from him. There have been a lot of speculation around that in the Green Bay community. Trey Amos is a great young corner to build around. At 24 for the Vikings, I have them going Kenneth Grant. You have Jonathan Grenard. You have a very good pass rush overall. Guys like Andrew Van Ginkel are still there. I think this defense gets even better next season if Brian Flores stays and does not leave for a head coaching opportunity. And I think Kenneth Grant is just another great piece to build around that. At 25 for the Houston Texans, I'm going Emeka Egbuka. You got Nico Collins as your big play threat, as your big body receiver. Tank Dell is really good. Unfortunately, a lot of injury issues with Tank Dell. He has had season-ending injuries the last 2 times. He also got shot in the middle in between those 2 season-ending injuries. So he's had a pretty rough 2 years in the NFL, and he's still putting up big numbers. So shout out Tank Dell. But I think Emeka Egbuka is kind of your Diggs replacement, or what you wanted Stephon Diggs to be. I don't know if they pay him this offseason or not. But Emeka Egbuka is a really good player from Ohio State. Plus, you can never go wrong drafting an Ohio State receiver, just like you can't go wrong drafting an LSU receiver. And at 26 with the Rams, I have them going Armand Membao from Missouri. Rob Havenstein is pretty old. You've kind of rebuilt the rest of the offensive line. You paid some of the guards, but Rob Havenstein is pretty old. We saw that the Eagles were able to get a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford. Whether Stafford plays next season or not, I think Armand Membao gives you a great piece to build around that offensive line. Because you don't, even if Stafford does come back, you do not want him breaking ribs and having to play through them like he did this season. At 27 for the Ravens, I have them going Shamar Stewart, edge rusher, Texas A&M. I think tackle makes a lot of sense here. Maybe a receiver if a guy like Egbuka is still on the board. However, you're still relying on a guy like Callaway and Noyes. He's still a really good player, even though he's older. But you don't want to rely on him as one of your main pass rushing threats. And I think that's what puts this team over the edge. If they're able to retain guys like Derrick Henry, maybe re-sign him, keep some of their other guys, maybe add a receiver or two in the free agency. But I think just getting a little pass rush helps this team a lot. So I have them going Shamar Stewart. At 28 for the Lions, Jack Sawyer. I think Jack Sawyer is the perfect Dan Campbell player. Gritty, tough, just won the national championship, had one of the best plays in college football this season with his fumble return against Texas. I think him, you got Aiden Hutchinson coming back. Ali McNeil on the inside is a really good young player. I think this team can be really good. You got to add pieces on that defense really badly. At 29 for Washington, I have them going Siobhan Revel, corner East Carolina. They need corner help. Marshawn Lattimore was a midseason acquisition. He's getting cooked a lot. Your cornerback room is just not great. Even though they beat Detroit, they gave up 500 yards of offense. Jared Goff still had 300 yards passing. Mikey Sainistro is a great corner, but you don't want Noah Igbinoghene in the slot. And Marshawn Lattimore, decent low risk, high reward trade in the middle of the season when your team is contending. And obviously, they are contending. They're in the NFC Championship. But I think you need cornerback help very badly for that team. At 30 for the Bills, I have them going Walter Nolan. Once again, this is a defensive line that's relying on some really older pieces like Von Miller for that little extra pass rush help on certain plays. And I think pairing Walter Nolan with Ed Oliver, who maybe played his best game of his career last week against the Ravens, I think that would be a potent defensive line combination. At 31, after trading back, I have the Seahawks drafting Jalen Milroe. I did this once before as well. I think it makes a lot of the sense with what they've said with the Gino coming back for the last year of his contract. I think you draft a young guy like Jalen Milroe, who I wish came out of the draft next year instead of this year. However, next year will be a much more crowded quarterback class, so I kind of get it. But I think he'll impress at the combine with just his athleticism. But I think this is someone that needs to sit for at least a year. You can sit behind Gino, learn from whoever the new offensive coordinator will be. Hopefully, for Seahawks fans' sake, it's Clint Kubiak. Sign him before he goes to the Jets or something else, please. And I think Jalen Milroe, with your running game, which is really good, with your DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Noah Fant, the defense has very good young pieces. I think that defense is going to be top 10 defense next season, quite honestly. But very excited to see what they do. And with the last pick of the draft, the Chiefs, another team that desperately needs offensive tackle. I have them going Ariante Ezere from Minnesota. I think he can be a really good player. Definitely better than what they have right now. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you thought of your team's picks. Please subscribe to the channel. Peace.